And for our next story, we want to begin by asking, is Europe getting tired of Zelensky? We know Ukraine's demand for long-range weapons has, in a way, fallen on deaf ears in NATO countries, and now it looks like some of Ukraine's closest allies are withdrawing support one by one. According to reports, Germany is halting supply of heavy combat vehicles and equipment to war-battered Ukraine. You heard that right. One of Ukraine's largest weapon supplier, Germany, will no longer send heavy equipment to Kyiv. German tabloid newspaper Bild has reported this, citing government documents, and it looks like there is doubt within the German Ministry of Defense about whether Ukraine will be able to launch a significant offensive against Russia and reclaim its territory soon. And as a result, after delivering 18 Leopard 2 tanks, no additional tanks or heavy equipment such as infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers and self-propelled howitzers will be sent to Ukraine. This is big. And what's more, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has also reportedly evaded the Ukrainian president's questions on whether Ukraine will be accepted into NATO. Despite Zelensky's trip across Europe to secure military support, the German Chancellor reportedly promised the Ukrainian leader nothing. Scholz promised Zelensky nothing on long-range weapons deliveries. He promised Zelensky nothing on Ukraine's NATO bid. In fact, Zelensky's trip across Europe has been described as a fiasco. The German tabloid reports that Zelensky had two main goals in mind when he embarked on this tour of meetings with Western leaders. Number one was obtaining permission to use Western weapons to strike strategic targets deep in Russia, weapons that basically would include the German Taurus missiles. And number two, secure the promise of a speedy NATO accession for Ukraine. On both fronts, it seems Zelensky was left high and dry. Bild describes the results as pretty poor, reporting that the two Ukrainian demands fell on deaf ears in Berlin. While the German Chancellor did not say a definite no to Zelensky, there was no positive response from him either, according to the paper. And if that wasn't enough, Zelensky was reportedly unable to meet with US President Joe Biden as he remained stateside to monitor the Category 5 Hurricane Milton as it ravaged Florida. And still, Zelensky's visit to Germany was not completely futile. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced a 1.4 billion euro military aid package for Ukraine by the end of 2024. That's $1.53 billion worth of aid. Scholz told Zelensky the package was a signal to Russia that the West would not stop supporting Kyiv. Remember, Zelensky has been meeting allies in Europe to present his victory plan, so-called victory plan, to end the war with Russia. And the details of the plan have not been divulged publicly, but Reuters cites US officials describing it as a repackaged request for more weapons and a lifting of restrictions on the use of long-range missiles. Germany is Ukraine's second biggest donor of military aid, but Scholz has balked at equipping Ukraine with long-range Taurus missiles and made no mention of them in his remarks. Ukrainian officials have repeatedly asked Germany to provide the Taurus missiles, which can hit targets as far as 500 kilometers away. Despite heated debate and back and forth in Berlin on the issue, Scholz has so far refused to oblige, citing escalation concerns. He has argued that the deliveries of Taurus missiles would only be tenable if Berlin could determine the targets itself. But you see, doing so would mean that Germany would become a direct participant in the war. And if that happens, NATO countries would be in direct confrontation with Russia, as the US-led military bloc follows the principle of collective defense, which basically means that an attack against one ally is an attack against all allies. And so far, Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that if the West decides to allow Ukraine to use Western long-range weapons to strike Russia, it will basically mean that NATO is waging war against Moscow. After 2 years of warning the West, Putin has also ordered an update of Russia's nuclear strategy. For Russia now, any aggression against Russia by any non-nuclear state, but with the participation or support of a nuclear state, shall be regarded as a joint attack. In such a case, Moscow will not stand down for now. Such an action by the West would see Russia respond with a nuclear weapon, with Russia drawing a nuclear red line, a new nuclear red line, and with the NATO wary of joining another war. It looks like the West is getting tired of supporting Ukraine. The West is already withdrawing support in a way. Will they abandon Ukraine next? We will have to wait and watch for that answer. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.